Hey, it's Luke. If you're finding that your Ableton Move loops are just boring or repetitive and it's just the same thing over and over, here are 5 tips that will help you make your loops a lot more interesting. There's a bonus one at the end that's actually really interesting as well. So if you're doing just a basic loop, you've got something like this, and then you want to add just a sound here right at the end of the bar. It's not bad, but it just sounds too repetitive. What you want to do here is double the loop, and you can actually double it again. So this way, instead of having this every bar, let's go get rid of a bunch of these. So you've got that, and then it breathes a little bit, and then it comes back in. And you can do the same thing for some other sounds. So we want to have this one here. So because you've got a longer loop, it just gives you more variation. Now, number 2 is about transpose. And what we tend to do is just go here and transpose this sound. So all of a sudden, everything's higher. But if we want more variation, we might not want to do that on every instance of that sound. So what we can do is actually go to one of these and transpose just the specific note that's playing. So what we should hear in a second is that hi-hat going tick, tick, tick. See, so we just changed the second one. Might be a little bit too far off. You don't want to go too far off because it'll just sound obvious, but a little variation here. So it just feels like it gives a little bit of forward movement, like it just speeds up for half a second, and you can try this on pretty well any sound and get some interesting variations. The other thing you can do is adjust the velocity on a specific note as well. So we can take the same one and just bring the velocity down so it'll be higher and a little bit more quiet. So you can tell there's sort of that movement. It almost sounds human. It almost sounds like you did something to the cymbal. And anyways, it can sound pretty interesting. Another thing I like to do is using this repeat here, which usually sounds like this, but I like using it in a track to add little variations here and there. So what I'll do here is hit record. So you can tell it's playing those little notes really quickly, really low in the background over here. It's a little bit like the rolls you'll have in trap music and stuff like that, but it can just easily add some interesting sounds. And because you're playing a whole bunch at once and then stopping, it just gives it a nice feel. Okay, for number 4, we're talking about automation. Not just regular automation where it's going up and down. You're probably doing that already. But just quick changes here and there that add a little bit of feel to it. We're just using it to add a quick thing on a note here and there, almost to give it a feel like we're using a different instrument altogether. And we're limited by the 4 tracks on here, but it's making it feel like we're actually using more of them. So another thing I love doing is going to the delay and just automating the dry wet. So there's delay only on specific notes here and there. So let's try this one. So I've got this little melody here. And this is dry. And then if we add the delay, it's just without delay and width. But here's what we can do. On the first bar, we've got these notes playing. We're going to go to the 7th bar here. And instead of having these, we're going to go down an octave and do the same thing. So we're going to remove these. And we're going to record the lower octave version just for that bar. Okay, so I just tried it with a lower octave and it was clashing with the bass. I didn't like it. So what we're going to do is the opposite. We're going to go up an octave and do the same notes higher just on that one bar. So let's try it. So I'm realizing now I should have just done transpose on those notes on that bar. So what we have now, and I'm going to take the delay off. So we've got this. So that last one is different, but it just sounds like we're playing different notes. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to add some delay just on those higher notes. So you can tell now it sounds like it's two different instruments, even though, yes, it's the same synth sound, and we could actually go and change it a little bit more. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to change the sound, but just on that 7th bar. We're going to play with these filters here. So all of a sudden, it sounds like we've got two different instruments going, but we're still using those 4 tracks that we're limited to. I like using this on organ sounds. I use them a lot because I do deep house music, where I'll have it straight and just dry the first time, and then the second time it'll have delay. So you're basically having this variation just with the delay. You're not actually doing anything to the instrument itself. Number 5 is ear candy. And it's surprising the amount of things you can do with Ableton Move that you don't really think about. So even if we have a crash here, I might pitch it down and bring it way down. So we might have this. So we'll have this every bar, but you might want to double your loop again and just have little variations of it throughout your loop or your track. Rises and downfalls are interesting too. You could drop them onto a pad and use it throughout your track. Really quiet percussion is interesting to use, where you hardly hear it. And you just have it really quiet. You don't even know it's there, but it's just adding to a little bit of the feel of the track. If you want to have a whole bunch of sound effects and ear candy type sounds, it'll take a little bit of planning, but what you could do is a lot of the time you might be using just 6 or 7 or 8 sounds on your drum rack. So you could take all of the sounds you're using for drums down here, and then up here put a whole bunch of sound effects. So you're basically creating 2 drum racks in one. And then when you're using the 16 pitches mode, it gives you a whole bunch of different sounds and variations. Okay, I mentioned a bonus tip, and this one's really interesting. I got the idea from somebody who did a video, and I can't pronounce his YouTube handle, so I'll just put it on the screen here. What I found out is you can actually automate the start point on a sample. So whether it's a phrase or just a sound like this. So instead of just playing this like this, we can do this. It gives you so much variation, and this is just with a simple vocal sample. I can only imagine what you could do with a more involved sample. So anyways, that's your bonus tip. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.